Enjoy special in-game entertainment, exclusive giveaways, and in-game ornaments. Be there for the action.
Hold up. Did the Minnesota Lynx just pull off the steal of the year? We're talking about a team that's already crushing everyone at 24-5, way ahead of every other team in the WNBA. But here's the thing. They had one weak spot, one missing piece that could have cost them everything in the playoffs. And then boom, 3 days ago, they fixed it. The Dallas Wings just traded DiJonai Carrington to Minnesota, and I'm telling you right now, this might be the move that wins them the whole thing. While everyone else is sleeping, the Lynx just grabbed exactly what they needed at exactly the right moment. You know how in movies the hero gets that perfect power-up right before the final boss fight? Yeah, that's what just happened here. We're about to break down why this trade isn't just smart, it's championship-level genius, and why every other team in the WNBA should be very, very worried right now.
Website. It is titled Minnesota Lynx Acquire Guard DiJonai Carrington. Minnesota Lynx today announced the team has acquired guard DiJonai Carrington from the Dallas Wings in exchange for forward Diamond Miller, guard Carly Samuelson, and Minnesota's 2027 second-round draft pick.
Okay, let's back up and talk about how we got to this crazy moment. So DiJonai Carrington, they call her seatbelt because she locks down players so tight. She was the most improved player last year. Like, she was absolutely shutting people down for Connecticut, the kind of defender that makes offensive players have nightmares. But then Dallas came calling. They had just drafted Paige Becker's first overall, and they thought, hey, let's get this defensive star to help build something special. So Carrington leaves Connecticut and heads to Dallas, thinking this is her chance to be the main character instead of just a supporting player. Plot twist, it didn't work at all, like not even close. Carrington went from being this elite defender to losing her starting job after just 12 games.
I'm out with 105 remaining. DiJonai Carrington and Chris Coklanis having a conversation.
Meanwhile, Dallas still can't play defense to save their lives, and they're way down in the standings. Here's what's wild, though. While Carrington was struggling in Dallas, Minnesota was having their own problems. They're winning games left and right, sitting at 24-5 and basically lapping the field. But they had this one issue that smart basketball fans could see coming from a mile away. When one of their players got hurt, Coach Cheryl Reeve was basically only trusting 7 players in big moments. And with the playoffs expanding to 7 games this year, that's not going to cut it. Here's what makes this even more important. Minnesota hasn't won a championship since 2017. That's 8 long years for their fans. And this core group of players is hitting that sweet spot where they're experienced enough to know how to win, but still young enough to actually do it.
Minnesota Lynx, Fee, will be out for the next 2 weeks with a right ankle injury. Hopefully, she gets the rest that she needs and come back stronger than ever.
Championship windows don't stay open forever, and the Lynx know they're running out of time. Plus, there's something huge that's different this year. The WNBA Finals are going to 7 games for the first time ever. In the past, it was just a best-of-5 series, but now they've expanded it. That might not sound like a big deal, but it completely changes how you build your team. When a series can go 7 games instead of 5, having that 8th or 9th player who can actually contribute becomes way more important. So now you've got Minnesota thinking, we need one more piece, and Dallas thinking, we need to start over. And boom, the perfect trade just falls into place. If you want to see how this could completely change who wins the championship this year, smash that like button because we're about to break down some serious basketball strategy.
Carrington, 5'11", joined Dallas via trade from Connecticut on February 2nd after spending her first 4 WNBA seasons with the Sun. She has appeared in 20 games this season, with the Wings averaging just 10.4 points.
Now here's where this gets really interesting. Carrington's time in Dallas wasn't just bad. It was like watching a Ferrari try to race in a parking lot. Same amazing car, but put it in the wrong situation and suddenly it looks ordinary. See, Dallas is still figuring things out. They've got young players who are still learning how to play winning basketball, especially on defense. When your teammates don't know where they're supposed to be, even the best defender in the world is going to struggle. It's like trying to play great music when the rest of the band is out of tune. But Minnesota, oh man, they've got the best defense in the entire league. We're talking about a team that makes other teams score almost 3 fewer points per 100 possessions than anyone else. That's not just good. That's historically great defense. It's like having the perfect orchestra where everyone knows exactly when to play their part. And here's what's crazy about Carrington specifically. When she was locked in with Connecticut, she wasn't just playing good defense. She was completely erasing players from games. We're talking about a defender who could make all-star level players look ordinary just by staying in front of them and making everything difficult. That's why they called her seatbelt.
A career high 5.1 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and 1.05 steals in 24.9 minutes per game. Won 151 career games for Dallas and Connecticut. The 27-year-old San Diego, California native holds career averages of 8.
Once she strapped onto you, you weren't going anywhere. The thing about elite defense is that it's contagious. When you've got someone like Carrington who can completely take away the other team's best player, it makes everyone else's job easier. Your help defense doesn't have to come as often. Your teammates can focus on their own assignments, and suddenly the whole system gets better. So imagine you're Carrington, and instead of trying to carry a defense that doesn't know what it's doing, you suddenly get to join a group where everyone's already in sync, where the help defense is always there, where everyone's talking, where the system just works. That's not just an upgrade. That's like going from fighting alone to joining the Avengers. The smart basketball people at ESPN didn't hold back when they broke this trade down. They said Minnesota wasn't just adding a player. They were solving their biggest problem for a potential finals rematch against the defending champion, New York Liberty.
0.5 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 1.2 assists and 0.95 steals in 20.2 minutes per contest.
Here's the deal. Last year, when these teams met in the finals, Kayla McBride had to guard Sabrina Ionescu, New York's best scorer. And McBride did fine, but here's the thing. When you spend all your energy chasing around the other team's best player, you don't have as much left for scoring on the other end. It's like playing defense and offense at the same time. Now imagine those same finals, but this time Carrington takes the tough defensive job while McBride gets to focus on what she does best, putting the ball in the basket. That's the kind of change that can swing an entire 7-game series, especially when every little advantage matters more and more as the series goes on. But wait, there's more. Minnesota's current small forward, Bridget Carleton, has been okay this year, but not amazing. She's shooting 36% from three-point range, which is decent, but not as good as last year, when she was one of the most improved players in the league.
2024, while being selected to the WNBA All-Defensive First Team after starting 39 games for Connecticut and averaging a career high of 12.7 points, 5.0 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 1.56 steals, and 29.6.
When you're trying to win a championship, you need every position to either help you or at least not hurt you. Adding Carrington gives Coach Reeve options. She can either start Carrington next to McBride when they need more defense, or bring her off the bench as the kind of game changer who can completely flip the energy in just a few minutes. The more you look at what Minnesota gave up for Carrington, the more this looks like they basically stole her. They traded Diamond Miller, a player who was picked second overall but couldn't even get playing time on Minnesota's team for 2 years. They traded Carly Samuelson, who's done for the season with a foot injury anyway. And they threw in a future second-round pick that probably won't amount to much. That's basically giving up nothing for a player who was the defensive star on a championship-level team just 1 year ago. It's like trading your backup car and some spare change for a brand new sports car. But here's why Dallas had to do this deal. They're not trying to win this year. They're 15 games behind Minnesota. Their season is basically over, and they're already thinking about next year. When you're in rebuild mode, keeping a veteran who doesn't fit your timeline makes no sense, especially when you can get young talent back. Dallas gets Diamond Miller, who's still only 24 and might actually be good with consistent playing time instead of sitting on Minnesota's bench. They cleared some salary space and got a future pick. For a team that needs to figure out what they have in their young players, it's actually a smart move. For Minnesota, it's the opposite thinking. They're in win-now mode. They have the best record in the league, their best players are in their prime, and they just upgraded their team while barely giving up anything important. It's exactly the kind of move championship teams make when they see a chance to get better. But here's what's really wild. This trade is already causing chaos around the rest of the league. You've got teams like Las Vegas and Connecticut who thought they had a real shot at the title, and now they're watching Minnesota get even better. The pressure is building for other general managers to make their own moves before the deadline, because nobody wants to be the team that stood pat while their biggest competition got stronger. Coach Cheryl Reeve has won 4 championships in Minnesota before, so she knows exactly what it takes. She's not the type of coach who's satisfied with just making the playoffs or even just making the finals. She wants to win it all, and she just convinced her front office to go get the exact piece she needed to make that happen. When a championship level coach tells you, this is what we need, you listen. Let's talk about what this trade really means for who's going to win the championship this year, because this goes way deeper than just one player switching teams. The New York Liberty are still the defending champs. They're getting their injured players back at the perfect time, and they know what it takes to win it all. On paper, they should still be the favorites. But here's the thing about championship windows. They don't stay open forever. Minnesota knows this is their best shot, and it all starts with Napheesa Collier having the season of her life. We're talking about a player who's averaging insane numbers and is right in the middle of the MVP conversation. When your best player is playing at that level, that's when you have to go all in. Think about it. Collier is 28 years old, right in her prime. A'ja Wilson and the other superstars around the league aren't getting any younger either. This isn't a situation where Minnesota can just wait until next year and hope everything works out the same way. Championship level talent doesn't come together by accident, and when you have it, you have to strike while the iron is hot. The problem was always going to be depth. What happens when the games get longer and more physical? What happens when players get in foul trouble or someone gets banged up? What happens when you need to go 8 or 9 players deep in a 7-game series instead of just relying on your top guys? Adding Carrington doesn't just solve that problem, it turns it into a strength. Now, when Coach Reeve needs to change things up, when she needs to throw a different look at the other team, when she needs someone who can come in and immediately help without needing time to figure things out, she's got that weapon. Carrington isn't just another player. She's playoff ready, been there, done that kind of player who knows how to step up when the lights are brightest. And here's something that might blow your mind. The money side of this could be huge. Minnesota hasn't won a championship since 2017. Their fans have been waiting and waiting, and a title run this year could be worth millions in ticket sales, merchandise, and keeping fans excited for years to come. The Lynx looked at their chances of winning with their current team versus their chances with Carrington, and they decided that giving up a bench warmer and some future stuff was totally worth it if it gets them a championship. That's the kind of smart risk-taking that separates good teams from great ones. So here we are, just a few days after this trade went down, and you can already feel the shockwaves around the league. Other teams that think they can win it all are scrambling to make their own moves before the trade deadline, because they know Minnesota just got a lot scarier while basically giving up nothing. Teams like Las Vegas, Connecticut, and even the defending champion Liberty are now under pressure to find their own upgrades or risk watching Minnesota run away with everything in what's already been a dominant season for them. But here's what makes this so fascinating. We might look back at this trade as the exact moment the 2025 championship was decided. Not because Carrington is going to single-handedly win Minnesota a title, but because championship teams are built on having the right player for every situation. And the Lynx just got exactly the type of player they were missing. Think about what happens if we get that finals rematch against New York. The Liberty's biggest advantage has always been that they can throw different looks at you and force you to adjust your game plan. Now Minnesota can match that flexibility while keeping their incredible defense. When Sabrina Ionescu gets hot, Carrington can switch onto her. When they need someone to mess up the other team's offensive rhythm, Carrington can do that. When they need energy off the bench in a crucial Game 7, Carrington brings exactly that kind of spark. The beautiful thing about this trade isn't just what it does for Minnesota's championship chances this year. It's what it shows about how championship teams think. While other teams were happy to stick with what they had, assuming their current roster was good enough, the Lynx saw a weakness and went after it aggressively. They didn't wait around hoping for a better deal or that someone even better might become available. They saw their chance to get better and they grabbed it with both hands. This is exactly what championship teams do. They make smart, strategic moves at the perfect time to give themselves the best shot at winning. The Lynx looked at their team, looked at the calendar, looked at their competition, and decided this was their moment to go all in. The question now isn't whether this trade makes Minnesota better. Obviously it does. The real question is whether this is the move that puts them over the top. Whether this is the difference between another disappointing playoff loss and finally cutting down nets in October. Based on the timing, how well Carrington fits what they need and what they gave up to get her, it's hard to argue against the Lynx having just made one of the smartest moves we've seen in the WNBA in years. If you made it this far, drop a comment below if you think the Lynx just played this trade deadline like champions. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more WNBA breakdowns, because something tells me this season is just getting started with the drama.